So, hello to all the viewers of Lady in the Red Bandana. Today, I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Beanie, and she is from the health space. She is a nutritional therapist, a yoga teacher, and a masseuse. So, hello, Beanie.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me.
How are you?
I'm really good, really good.
Good, I'm glad. So, thank you for joining us here today. I'm just going to ask you a few questions about you. Let's go all about you first. How did you get started?
So I got started really small. I trained as a masseuse first, and then it was really grassroots. Like I just used to go round to people's houses and massage. Um, and I kind of had always been really, really interested in natural health. And that was the start really for me getting training. And then that kind of then later became a yoga teacher training in India. And then that later became training to be a nutritional therapist. So I've kind of built it one by one to kind of combine basically different elements of natural health. So I suppose I was actually working in this yoga retreat in Guatemala, and it was prior to me knowing much about yoga really, except for enjoying the practice. And they were doing a training there, and I was working as the chef or assistant chef to the guy out there. And they kind of just said to me, like, jump in on anything that looks exciting to you when you're not working. So I that really sparked my initial interest. And then having done that, I thought I wanted to go to India and really learn from where it's been less diluted, so really go right to the source. So I went to Mysore in which is not so far from Bangalore, and learned Ashtanga there, which is kind of like the home of Ashtanga. So learned a really, really pure form of yoga. And then it's nice to integrate your own style within that, but it was nice to learn right from the source.
So, going back a little bit before you started becoming interested in nutritional therapies and yoga, and what really got you started? So, what were you doing before all of that?
So before that, I was working for, well, before that, I was living in South America teaching English, and I also massaged there. But and then after that, I came back and I worked for a startup called Freddy's Flowers, and they were kind of one of the first delivery flower box subscription services. And I was their first employee, and I was there for about 2.5 years. It grew really, really fast. So I got amazing insight into like the growth of a small business and just um, how many mistakes are made. Also, just to see that growth and how a company changes as it grows. So that was like amazing firsthand insight into that. And then I did Freddy's Flowers whilst I was training to be a nutritional therapist, so it allowed me to kind of do the both at the same time. Um, so yeah, that was kind of the last job I had prior to going out on my own.
With any sort of job, there's always a journey and there's always high points, there's always low points. What would be some of your really good high points that you would say that you've got out of what you're doing right now?
High points obviously are going to be serving people and realizing that you are giving or providing an experience or helping to support an experience whereby people feel better than when they started. That could be from deciding to go on a nutrition journey and addressing a health concern that they've been dealing with for a long time, or symptoms that they've been dealing with. So, like type 2 diabetes or hypothyroidism or weight loss. So, anything like that, where you're supporting someone on a journey, which could bring about like wonderful benefits to their whole quality of life. And that also then rings true, maybe in a smaller way, from how people feel after they have a massage, or how people feel after they commit to a regular yoga practice. The idea is that people leave feeling more grounded, more stable, more connected to themselves and with the world around them than they did when they walked in the room. So that obviously is always going to be the driver of why I'm doing what I do. But highs, I suppose, come in so many different forms. For me, they've come where opportunities have arisen and collaborations have arisen from places I never expected. So, a woman who comes to my yoga class and then says that she's got this house in Italy and would love to do yoga retreats there, would I host them? So those kind of things that just from out of nowhere, this wonderful opportunity arises to do something really exciting where you feel like people would really love it. So that kind of thing is cool. um I would say that those are the main ones, yeah.
I think it's great, isn't it, when you have a client or a customer or your audience out there and just says thank you to you. I think something,
Yeah,
just that little thing just makes such a difference. With
totally.
with regards to like obviously connections and communication, do you do this on your own, or is this something that you do? Obviously, your lady who said that you could go to Italy to do that, which is amazing. I mean, what an opportunity. Is it something that you would do with other people, or is this just you and your own?
So a lot of it is me on my own, but then making collaborations or doing collaborations with various other people. I have obviously worked for studios in the past, which obviously is different now during COVID, but I've worked for studios. Um, I've worked for various different like corporate companies doing wellness talks and that kind of thing. So that I predominantly work on my own, but with a view to always loving to do collaborations or an opportunity to be part of a team to create something is always really exciting to me.
Obviously, with the highs, there's always something that's paired with that, and that's the lows. But I see that as a lesson. I don't know about you, but I see the lows as a lesson, and you always have to go through them to get to the position and to get to the result that you want. It makes you a better therapist. It makes, well, for myself, it makes me a better therapist. I think to have made mistakes, to think I'm not going to do that again, but then you learn from it. So, what would you say that you've learned from, not in a negative way, but what have you learned from the lows that you have experienced?
I think it's resilience, isn't it? It's kind of like dusting yourself off, working out what the lesson is, and then moving forward with the same amount of enthusiasm you had before that challenge arose or the mistake happened. And sometimes that's really hard, especially when you're working on your own. I am someone who I love being around people. I get a lot of energy from working with people. So one of my biggest challenges or biggest lows would be that when challenges do arise, is that I'm dealing with them a lot on my own. So that kind of, I suppose it's loneliness around not being part of a team would be the biggest challenge that I experienced. I think that the longer you do what you do on your own, you do become more confident and more ballsy, and become a bit more open to making risks or becoming a bit more rational about what it actually means if you make a mistake. Like no one really cares. So
Yeah.
I think and I think so I think and all the people that are around you that love you, all they want to do is see you succeed. No one is wait, and I suppose just putting yourself in the ring is the best place to start. And also realizing that not everything that you do or put out has to be perfect. Like you can still do a wonderful job or really enhance somebody's life without it being like the most polished performance or the best massage somebody's ever received or the best nutrition session that's changed someone's life. Understanding that you can still offer a lot. And I think that's that idea. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I've grown up in a world of where we're kind of pitted against our peer groups, not so there's a massive amount of comparison. And also the competition is so high in every industry. So I suppose we're always going to compare ourselves to people that we feel are like our heroes or people that we look up to. And I suppose it's just allowing myself to not be perfect and just enjoy offering what you can within the capacity that you can, literally giving your best for the right reasons, with the best intentions, and letting that be enough. With a view to knowing that we're always growing and we're always learning and we're always developing and evolving and hopefully honing our craft so that what we are offering does become an incredibly special and unique experience. But whilst also understanding that at the beginning, it's probably going to be a bit shabby sometimes. That's okay.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, that's really like quite empowering what you said, to realize that that's where you are in your stage of your career. And I'm guessing you put your career into your personal life as well. You look after yourself, and so when you are looking after your clients, and when obviously it's all online at the moment, I'm assuming. So
Yeah.
how do you want to make them feel? I know it's really easy to say, oh, I want to make them feel happy, because of course we want everyone to feel happy. But at the end of, I don't know, a yoga session or a nutritional therapy session, how do you want that client to feel? So when they come back to you, they think, oh, that was amazing. This is what I did at home because you told me to do this. What's the feeling that you want to give to them?
I suppose what you from a I'll talk from a nutritional therapist point of view. What you want to do is empower people and give them the knowledge so they can make the change. You cannot change anyone, but you can empower someone and give them really solid, good information as to the changes that they can make, and then support them to make those changes. So to motivate someone, to give them the knowledge, to make them realize that they A, need to take responsibility for our own health, we all do, and B, you have the complete power to change around how you feel mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, if you so desire. But you have to make it a priority. So I want to empower people to realize that they can do this, but it has to be a priority. They have to do it with intention. Without intention, without priority, without purpose, we don't make changes. Like, we don't suddenly wake up and feel fit just by chance. It has to be a conscious choice. We don't suddenly start eating vegetables, when we've never eaten them before, without it being a conscious choice, or doing a regular yoga class, or whatever it is. So it has to be conscious. So my view is to empower someone to make those changes so that they're doing it for themselves, because then they know that they can continue to do it. They've integrated the habits. You can't do it for somebody, but it's giving them the power to know that they can make those changes is the best thing I could offer.
That sounds perfect, to be honest. With yourself, do you feel empowered by your knowledge? Do you feel like you want to tell everybody and show everyone? Is that the feeling that you get from when you are treating and when you are learning?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I suppose it's important to realize that people need to come to you. As in, of course, marketing yourself is very important, but I mean, my approach is not a hard sell. I feel like if people want your advice, they'll ask you. And I'm definitely not in the business of judgment or anything like that. But if somebody wants um, knowledge or has a question about something, I will give them everything I know so that they can be empowered to make the changes and know how, know a safe way to integrate change and that kind of thing. Yeah, I feel empowered by the knowledge, and I feel like, more and more health is becoming so important, and natural health and preventative healthcare as well. And it's only going to become more. And that, as we start to take more responsibility for our health, the importance of preventative and natural health becomes the most important thing, in whatever form somebody chooses to, whatever route somebody chooses to go down.
I think we should, if we have a passion for something, no matter what it is, whether it's your career, something that you do in your personal life, you should feel empowered by it, because why else would we be doing it? If it's making you sad, stop it. Stop doing it.
Totally,
You know.
totally.
So obviously, what you're trying to promote is self-care for people at home now, obviously, because you can't see them physically, like face to face. Obviously, we can do these video calls and things, but what would you suggest to someone who wanted to go into your career and your industry? What would you suggest for them to do to look after themselves whilst they're in it, whilst they're helping other people? What would you suggest for them to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose, and this will look different for everybody, but finding a practice and finding rituals that you commit to that suit you. And that's something physical, that will be something emotional or mental, and that could be something spiritual or not. Maybe it's connection to nature, but finding a practice which resonates with you and really committing to it being a daily practice to bring you back into your physical body, to ground you, to basically set the tone for your day. For me, for example, I love breath work. Um, and this is becoming so important now, breath work, because they've all the incredible studies that are coming out, and to what it does to stress, to what it does to the immune system, to how it can actually change the pH balance in the body. Like, absolutely incredible, the power of breath work. And they've been talking about this for centuries in India, but now there's been kind of evolved styles or exercises which are becoming very popular, and kind of have been slightly modernized, but with a very similar structure as to how they were 2,000 years ago. And these have such powerful benefits to physical, mental health, like unbelievable. I would say if someone said to me, do you want to do yoga, meditation, or breath work? I'd say just get into a breathwork practice. It's amazing as a self-care practice. I mean, obviously I do a lot of self yoga. Meditation for me is amazing, but even just being in nature, I think, is one of the best things that we can do to lower stress levels. Again, so many incredible studies coming out about, how 2 hours in nature can reduce stress levels so much, and the amount of cortisol in our blood is incredible. And this is something that we can all do, and it's free. Well, most of us can do, even if we can't be in a park. You can at least be outside in the blue sky sometimes when it's nice. Um, so those are sleep would be my big self-care practice. Absolutely, number one, more important than nutrition, I would say, would be good quality sleep and sticking to regular time. So routine within that is really, really important. Um, yeah, it's just to balance the circadian rhythm. If our body loves routine, it thrives on routine. So getting that circadian rhythm in balance by sticking to regular meal times, bedtimes, exercise times, wake up times is such a practice of self-love. Because if you're not someone who is regular by nature, it does take discipline to enforce that, but it is really, really key to how we feel, both physically, mentally. Our hormones plays into everything.
I mean, it's such a simple thing, isn't it? Sleep. You just
Yeah.
think, oh yeah, that's what we do every evening, and that's what you should. But it's when you're finding it difficult to sleep, that's when I think, the next day doesn't feel as right. And we all have those days. Of course we do. We can't say that we're perfect and don't have those days. But I also think that I was listening to I was listening to a sleep podcast actually, and they were talking about when you are actually trying to sleep and you're in your zone, you're in your bedroom and you're trying to sleep, and if you can't sleep, is to get up and go somewhere else, because your body and your mind will associates that bed then with not being able to sleep. So it's about
Absolutely.
going somewhere else, doing something else until you feel a bit tired, and then going into your bed and then going to sleep when you are actually physically tired. Because they likened it to, and I thought this was really, really quite funny as well. If you are hungry, you will then eat, obviously. But nobody ever waits at a dinner table waiting to get hungry. You don't sit there all day waiting to get hungry. So why would you be in bed waiting to get sleepy? Go somewhere else and do something else, and then obviously use that bed for sleeping. Because our minds are quite interesting like that. We are really clever. Human beings are very clever, and when we associate a bed with not being able to sleep, I do find that you won't be able to do it. It's really difficult to do it. So yeah, I completely agree. Sleep is so important.
A therapist would say, use the bedroom for sleep, sleep and sex, and that is it.
Yeah.
And also the ideas around sleep hygiene are so key. Cool room, about 17, 18 degrees, very dark, very quiet, natural fibers on the bed. So important. Dimming down the light when melatonin is starting to rise, our sleep hormone, which is going to peak at about 9 p.m. So turning off the lights, lighting a candle, these all seem like very simple things, but create the environment if you're a difficult sleeper to bring on sleep and to signal to the brain that, okay, this is wind down time. So stimulating for our brains. If you're got two screens on in the evening and you're scrolling on Instagram, and then I speak to a client and they tell me they can't sleep, and I said, what time are you scrolling to? And it's 10:30 p.m. Like, you've just seen about 250 probably or more images of different things, which is lighting up so many different sections within the brain. And then you think you're going to be able to put that down and just doze off. Like, it's just not going to happen.
What would you like to do more of? So obviously time is very precious, and you're doing your online classes, and there's lots of other things that you're doing with the health space. What do you wish that you could do more of?
I suppose more group stuff. I think the power of groups is amazing. And not just because, you're just there as a facilitator or a guide, facilitating a session, but the power of being in a group, I think, is incredible. Whether that's through a mindfulness session, whether that would be through a yoga and a share. But so, being able to, when things start being a little bit looser in terms of regulations, being able to do more groups, more workshop days, mainly because we are all craving community, because we're not religious beings so much anymore, don't tend to be so religious. We're doing so much more in just within our family unit or our household. So this idea of connection to something bigger than ourselves or wider than just our friendship group, I think, is so powerful. So groups, I would say group retreats are a big thing I'd love to do more of.
What have you done to adapt what you do to help other people?
So I've just taken everything online. I work very much in the same way that I'm sure most people are on Zoom, doing kind of one-to-one sessions, whilst also teaching online yoga, and they would be my main ones. And doing more corporate stuff. So I've done more talks and new kind of nutrition and wellness talks, especially now corporates are much more aware of, how important well-being is, of their employees. So a lot more big corporates are spending money on, um, just supporting their employees physically, physical, mental health kind of thing. So I've done a lot more of that, which has been really interesting space to work in, and a space I also see becoming more important as employers realize the importance of making sure that their employees are in a good and happy space.
Do you feel that that has changed quite a lot then? So from before this whole thing has happened to us, when it's changed all our worlds around, do you feel that it's getting better? So people are realizing more that self-care, looking after themselves, is so essential to their lives now. Do you feel, with talking to other businesses and in the corporate world, do you feel like they are actually, yes, this is important and we do need to take that time out, we do need to have the time to do that?
Absolutely. And I think in part there are some companies where that's part of their culture. So they have been doing that for a while now. And then, that has, whether other big companies wanted to or not, they've almost been forced to. It's the spirit of the zeitgeist, isn't it? Like, to be a company that's not investing in their employees and in their well-being is just almost not okay in this day and age, when mental health issues are at such a peak and we're all working online and just craving, community, really. So to not support that from a corporate point of view, I think just will more and more be seen to be like an irresponsible employer. I don't think it will be okay. And from my point of view, like, quite rightly slow. So if humans are giving so much of their time to work for a company, then they should be looked after in return, is my feeling about it. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I do too. I really do. I think when I was talking to my mum about this quite recently, actually, that you need to not feel guilty for looking after yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times you probably have people saying, "Oh, I feel guilty because I'm doing this for myself and not for my kids or not for my wife or my husband or whatever." It's like, but that's so important, because without you looking after yourself, you can't look after anyone else.
Yeah, like, you have to make time to fill up your cup before you can give anything out. If the cup's not full, you've got nothing to give. So, making that time for yourself, whether it's a yoga class, whether it's having a massage, your nails done, it doesn't really matter what it is. If it feels good for you, you've got to make time to do it. And I actually think you're doing a disservice to yourself and the people around you by not investing in that. I obviously understand it doesn't have to be anything expensive. You could be sitting on your bed and looking out the window for half an hour. That's the most perfect practice of mindfulness you could ever do. So it doesn't have to be, an expensive massage. It can be just literally a walk in nature, but just realizing that without your health, mental and physical, you don't have anything. You have nothing to give. So to take that time, and I think it's also a generational thing. Like, I think in part a lot of our parents' generation feel a bit more guilty about that kind of stuff, because previously it had this idea of being quite self-indulgent and a bit, you know, seeing a therapist, whether it was to, a psychotherapist, or overindulging in spa treatments, it would have been seen as really indulgent. But actually, I think that is shifting, and I can see that amongst my friends. I mean, everyone is investing in therapists. I don't know, especially during lockdown, I've seen so many of my friends take the time to go and speak to a therapist, not for anything drastic, but just as, like, I think this would be really interesting to explore, perhaps things I haven't taken the time to explore before. So it doesn't have to be like really mega trauma. It could just be things that, are issues that would be worth chatting to somebody about, a professional, and getting an objective ear on something. So I think it's an amazing thing, that shift.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's the whole "it's okay to not be okay" thing that's happening right now to people. It's just about
Yeah,
educating yourself and educating other people to say, I just need to talk about me for a bit and just tell you what's happening,
Yeah.
and then for somebody to give you advice. I think that's lovely that people feel that they can do that now. Whereas, like you say, generational wise, a few generations back, that it wasn't okay to do that. It's just
Yeah.
almost that stiff upper lip attitude of just get over it and just get on with it.
Totally. Get
And
on with it.
in a way, yes, that worked back then, maybe, but nowadays, I think with all of the stress of competition with an industry, in whatever industry, in education, in life in general, just competition in general with everything, social media, looking at photos of
Mm,
people and saying, oh, well, why don't I not look like that, or why does that person have that? I think just actually sitting down and telling somebody how you feel, that small thing can make a huge difference in someone's life.
absolutely. And it also doesn't have to be formal kind of therapy. It might be a walk with a friend where you literally chew the fat and talk about what's bothering you both. It doesn't have to be in a more formal setting. It can be if that's what you feel like you need, but it also doesn't have to be. But I think it is just about offering um, people an ear, like a non-judgmental ear, 360 degrees active listening, where you're just giving somebody your full undivided attention, and you're listening to exactly what they're saying without feeling like you have to offer advice. Just giving, that's the most precious gift you can ever give somebody, your time, and giving them your whole attention, because that makes somebody feel heard and valued, and that's what every human being needs. So, creating the space, whether it's for a friend or family member, or someone that you work with, but creating the space so you can really listen and tune in, because there are so many distractions for us with social media, with work, with the fact that we tend to have really busy lives now. Creating the time to give someone your full attention is such a wonderful thing. And maybe advice comes from it, but maybe somebody just needs an ear. So often we just need someone to listen to us or hear us out and feel like they've really actually listened. um, and that's a really special thing that we can give somebody for free.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for being on the show as well. It's been lovely speaking to
Thanks
you.
so much for having me. It was so nice to speak to you. 3 super easy tips. Drink more water. If you can get from a good quality source, that is amazing. And if you could have one in your house, brilliant. Drink more water, sleep for at least 8 hours and regular hours, and eat more fruit and veggies. Cut out the processed food and integrate, crowd in the good stuff, crowd in the fruits and veggies, and start to reduce the amount of processed, high sugar, high fat foods in the diet, high trans fat, that is. Yeah, there would be my tips.
We have been the lady in the red bandana, and we want you to be empowered to believe in yourself.